Hello, future medical professionals. Welcome to an exciting session on Class 11 Biology. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating chapter of breathing and exchange of gases, specifically focusing on regulation of respiration. Have you ever wondered how your body automatically adjusts your breathing, whether you're running or resting? We'll explore the intricate mechanisms that make this possible. We'll start with the basics, then gradually build up to competitive level insights. Get ready for a comprehensive journey through the neural and chemical controls of your breath. Let's kick things off with the easy level. Here, we'll uncover the fundamental ideas behind how your body keeps your breathing just right without you even having to think about it. First, what exactly is regulation of respiration? Simply put, it's your body's amazing ability to automatically adjust how fast and how deep you breathe. This adjustment ensures you always get enough oxygen and effectively get rid of carbon dioxide, matching your body's ever-changing needs. Think about it, your breathing is very different when you're sleeping compared to when you're running a marathon, and your body handles all these changes seamlessly. The primary control for this vital process lies in a special area of your brain called the medulla oblongata. It houses the respiratory rhythm center, which acts like a built-in pacemaker, setting the basic tempo of your breathing. But how does it know when to speed up or slow down? Your body has tiny sensors, called chemoreceptors, that constantly monitor levels of carbon dioxide and hydrogen ions in your blood. If these levels rise, the sensors signal the brain to increase breathing. Interestingly, oxygen levels only become a major trigger if they drop very low. For example, during exercise, increased CO2 triggers faster breathing to restore balance. Time for some quick checks on your understanding. Here are 3 practice questions for the easy level. Take a moment to think about them. Question 1. Which part of the brain primarily controls the basic rhythm of respiration? Question 2. What gas concentration is the primary stimulus for regulating breathing under normal conditions? And finally, question 3. What are the specialized sensors called that detect changes in blood chemistry related to respiration? Pause the video, answer these, and let's move on. Alright, let's step up to the medium level. Here, we'll delve deeper into the specific brain centers and chemical sensors that orchestrate your breathing. The regulation of respiration is primarily governed by neural centers situated in 2 crucial parts of your brainstem, the medulla oblongata and the pons. The medulla contains the essential respiratory rhythm center, which is the foundational driver of your breathing. Think of it as the main engine. The pons, on the other hand, houses the pneumotaxic and apneustic centers, which act like fine-tuning mechanisms, modulating the activity of the medullary rhythm center, ensuring your breathing is smooth and efficient. Delving into the medulla, the respiratory rhythm center is composed of 2 main neuron groups. The dorsal respiratory group, or DRG, is primarily responsible for inspiration, that's inhaling. It sends signals to your diaphragm and intercostal muscles, initiating each breath. Then there's the ventral respiratory group, or VRG, which becomes active during more forceful breathing, assisting both inspiration and expiration. In the pons, the pneumotaxic center helps to shorten inspiration, increasing your breathing rate. Conversely, the apneustic center tends to prolong inspiration, leading to deeper breaths, but it's often overridden by the pneumotaxic center for normal rhythmic breathing. Now, let's talk about the sophisticated sensors called chemoreceptors. These specialized cells detect changes in the chemical makeup of your blood and cerebrospinal fluid. Central chemoreceptors, located near the respiratory rhythm center in the medulla, are exquisitely sensitive to changes in carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration in the cerebrospinal fluid. Meanwhile, peripheral chemoreceptors, found in your carotid and aortic arteries, are also sensitive to CO2 and H+, but crucially, they also detect significant drops in oxygen levels. When CO2 levels rise, it leads to an increase in hydrogen ions, stimulating these chemoreceptors, which in turn signals the brain to increase your breathing rate and depth to restore balance. Alright, it's time to test your knowledge at the medium level. Here are 5 practice questions. Take a moment to consider each one. Question 1. Name the 2 main respiratory centers located in the pons. Question 2. What is the primary function of the dorsal respiratory group? Question 3. Where are the central chemoreceptors located and what are they most sensitive to? Question 4. Describe how an increase in blood CO2 leads to increased respiration. And question 5. During quiet breathing, which group of neurons in the medullary rhythm center is primarily active? Good luck! Ready for a challenge? Welcome to the hard level. Here, we'll dissect the complex feedback loops and specialized receptors that fine-tune respiration. The neural control of respiration is a hierarchical symphony. The medullary centers, with the DRG initiating inspiration and the VRG supporting forceful breathing, form the core rhythm generator. The pontine centers, the pneumotaxic and apneustic, act as crucial modulators. The pneumotaxic center, by limiting inspiration, ensures a faster breathing rate, while the apneustic center, if unopposed, would prolong inspiration. However, the pneumotaxic center usually overrides it for smooth, rhythmic breathing. Beyond the brainstem, higher centers like the cerebral cortex allow for conscious control, like holding your breath, while the hypothalamus and limbic system integrate emotional influences, affecting your breathing during stress or excitement. Let's dive deeper into chemoreceptor function. Central chemoreceptors, nestled in the medulla, are exquisitely sensitive to hydrogen ion concentration in the cerebrospinal fluid. Carbon dioxide readily crosses the blood-brain barrier, forms H+ in the CSF, and thus indirectly stimulates these receptors, making them primary detectors of arterial PCO2. Peripheral chemoreceptors, located in the carotid and aortic bodies, are rapid responders. While also sensitive to CO2 and H+, their critical role emerges when arterial oxygen levels drop significantly, below 60 mmHg. They act as an emergency system, quickly signaling the brain to boost ventilation when oxygen becomes critically low. Beyond chemoreceptors, several other receptors influence breathing. The Heeringbauer reflex, triggered by stretch receptors in the lungs, prevents overinflation during deep breaths by sending inhibitory signals to the inspiratory neurons. While less active in normal breathing, it's vital during strenuous exercise. Irritant receptors in the airways protect us from noxious substances by triggering coughs or bronchoconstriction. G-receptors in the alveolar walls signal rapid, shallow breathing in conditions like pulmonary edema. Proprioceptors in muscles and joints contribute to increased ventilation during exercise, anticipating the metabolic demand. Even thermoreceptors can influence breathing, for example, increasing respiratory rate in response to heat. And remember, while we can voluntarily control our breathing, the automatic system will eventually take over if CO2 levels become dangerously high or O2 critically low. Now, let's tackle the hard-level practice questions. There are 7 questions here, designed to make you think critically. Question 1. Distinguish between the primary stimuli for central and peripheral chemoreceptors. Question 2. Explain the physiological significance of the Heeringbauer reflex. Question 3. How do the pneumotaxic and apneustic centers interact to modulate breathing? Which one usually dominates? Question 4. A person voluntarily holds their breath. What chemical changes in the blood will eventually force them to breathe? Question 5. Describe the pathway of signals from stretch receptors in the lungs to the medullary rhythm center. Question 6. What role do proprioceptors play in the regulation of respiration during physical activity? And finally, question 7. Why are central chemoreceptors considered more sensitive to CO2 than to H+ directly, despite responding to H+? Give these your best shot. Welcome to the hardest level, where we'll explore the cutting-edge and competitive aspects of respiratory regulation. Prepare to dive deep into molecular mechanisms, complex feedback loops, and clinical correlations. The neuroanatomy of respiratory control is incredibly intricate. The Prebotzinger complex, nestled within the VRG, is now recognized as the true pacemaker for breathing, generating the fundamental rhythm. It orchestrates the activity of DRG and VRG neurons, which then activates the motor neurons controlling your respiratory muscles. Pontine centers, the pneumotaxic and apneustic, act as sophisticated modulators, ensuring smooth transitions between inspiration and expiration and preventing irregular breathing patterns. Beyond the brainstem, higher centers in the cerebral cortex provide voluntary control, while the hypothalamus and limbic system integrate emotional responses, demonstrating a complex, hierarchical control over every breath you take. Let's explore the molecular mechanisms of chemoreception. Central chemoreceptors in the medulla sense changes in cerebrospinal fluid pH. CO2 readily diffuses into the CSF, where it's converted to H+ by carbonic anhydrase. These H+ ions then depolarize the chemoreceptor neurons, opening voltage-gated channels and releasing neurotransmitters like glutamate, which excite the medullary respiratory centers. This is a slower but sustained response. Peripheral chemoreceptors, found in carotid and aortic bodies, contain glomus cells. Hypoxia, hypercapnia, or acidosis trigger the closure of oxygen-sensitive K+ channels or activate acid-sensitive ion channels, leading to depolarization. This influx of calcium causes neurotransmitter release, exciting afferent nerve fibers, and rapidly signaling the DRG. These provide a swift, immediate response to critical changes. The body's integrated response to hypoxia and hypercapnia is vital. Hypercapnia, or high PCO2, is the most potent stimulus for ventilation, with central chemoreceptors contributing the majority of the drive due to their direct access to CSF pH. This results in a significant increase in both breathing rate and depth. Hypoxia, or low PO2, is primarily detected by peripheral chemoreceptors, but its ventilatory response is nonlinear, becoming significant only below 60 to 70 mmHg. Importantly, hypoxia and hypercapnia act synergistically, meaning their combined effect on ventilation is greater than the sum of their individual effects. For adaptive mechanisms, consider high-altitude acclimatization. Initial hypoxia triggers hyperventilation. Over days, renal compensation normalizes CSF pH, allowing for sustained hypoxic ventilatory drive. The diving reflex, triggered by cold facial immersion, causes bradycardia, vasoconstriction, and apnea, conserving oxygen. Pathologically, Cheyne-Stokes respiration, a waxing and waning breathing pattern, indicates instability in respiratory control, often seen in heart failure. Sleep apnea, either obstructive or central, leads to intermittent hypoxia and hypercapnia, with severe long-term health implications. Pharmacologically, respiratory depressants like opioids and barbiturates reduce the sensitivity of medullary respiratory neurons to CO2, causing decreased breathing. Respiratory stimulants, or analeptics, conversely, can boost respiratory drive, sometimes used in cases of depression. Various feedback loops and reflexes further refine respiration. The Heerenbrewer reflex prevents lung overinflation. Irritant reflexes trigger coughs. J-receptor reflexes cause rapid, shallow breathing in pulmonary edema. All these mechanisms highlight the complex engineering of our respiratory system, ensuring optimal gas exchange under diverse physiological conditions and challenging environments, a critical area for any ET aspirants to master. Alright, it's time for the ultimate test of your knowledge with the hardest level questions, Part 1. We have 10 questions in total, covering advanced concepts. For this segment, let's focus on questions 1 through 5. Question 1. Explain the role of the Prebotzinger complex in generating the respiratory rhythm. Question 2. Compare and contrast the signal transduction mechanisms of central and peripheral chemoreceptors in response to CoA2H plus and O2 respectively. Question 3. Describe the synergistic interaction between hypoxia and hypercapnia in stimulating ventilation. Question 4. How does the body acclimatize to high altitude, specifically focusing on the role of chemoreceptors and renal compensation? And question 5. Explain the physiological basis of Cheyne-Stokes respiration and name two conditions where it might be observed. Take your time, these require deep thought. Continuing with our hardest level questions, let's move on to questions 6 through 10. Question 6. Discuss the primary mechanism by which opioids cause respiratory depression. Question 7. A patient with severe emphysema has chronically elevated arterial PCO2. Why might administering high concentrations of supplemental oxygen be dangerous for this patient? Question 8. What is the diving reflex and what are its key physiological components? Question 9. Elaborate on the switch-off mechanism of inspiration and the role of the pneumotaxic center in regulating respiratory rate. And finally, question 10. How do type I glomus cells in peripheral chemoreceptors detect hypoxia at a cellular level? These questions are designed to challenge your understanding and prepare you for competitive exams. And that concludes our in-depth exploration of the regulation of respiration. We've journeyed from the basic controls to the intricate molecular mechanisms and clinical applications. Mastering this topic is crucial for your NEET preparations. For more such comprehensive educational content, practice questions, and personalized learning experiences, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for continuous updates and more exciting biology lessons. Keep learning, keep growing, and excel in your NEET journey. See you in the next session.